This update covers Klein versus Sunoco Inc., a case in the 10th Circuit originating out of Oklahoma. This case involves a dispute over royalty payments stemming from a violation of Oklahoma's Production Revenue Standards Act. Here's what happened. The PRSA was enacted in 1980 to regulate the marketing, sale, and production of hydrocarbons from Oklahoma wells. It requires that royalties be paid within 6 months of the first sale and 2 months after any subsequent sales. The PRSA states that the portion of royalties not timely paid will accrue 12% compound interest every year. Something to note is that Oklahoma's PRSA states that operators cannot withhold payments for marketable title issues, like you can in other states. If title issues arise, the operator is faced with the choice of possibly paying the wrong person or withholding payment and accruing compound interest of 6% every year. The plaintiff, Perry Klein, owns royalty interest in 3 Oklahoma wells. In 2017, Klein filed a class action lawsuit against Sunoco, alleging that over 53,000 class members received late payments without interest in violation of the PRSA, as Sunoco did not pay the owners within 6 months after the date of the first sale. Sunoco agreed that the class has a right to be paid their proceeds, but argued that they had already sent the proceeds to every class member. The issue at trial became what amount was due to the owners for the interests. The district court, after a 4-day trial, awarded judgment in favor of Klein and the class. The class of owners was awarded damages totaling $1.5 million for late payments that failed to include interest. However, the total amount awarded exceeded $103 million in actual damages, including prejudgment interest that accrued before and after the trial. Additionally, the district court granted the class $75 million in punitive damages. On appeal, Sunoco challenged the $103 million in actual damages and the $75 million in punitive damages. Sunoco argued that there were individual claims on marketable title against the 53,000 members of the class. To use this defense, Sunoco needed to show that there were legitimate title issues within the class. However, Sunoco was unable to establish a single instance of a legitimate question of title, and therefore was not entitled to the lower interest rate of 6% on any of the claims. Sunoco also challenged the award of prejudgment interest. Sunoco argued that it had paid the original proceeds, but not the compound interest, and adding interest on top of compound interest was unfair and unlawful. The court explained that compound interest means interest added to the principal amount. As unpaid compound interest accrues, it becomes part of the principal amount owed to the plaintiff. The court determined the accrual date stops when both the proceeds and the compound interest are paid, not just when the original proceeds were paid. Because Sunoco did not pay the combined proceeds and the compound interest amount, and there were no issues with title for any of the class members, the court upheld the district court's judgment of $103 million in actual damages. The court then addressed Sunoco's challenge to the $75 million punitive damages award. Sunoco argued that, under Oklahoma law, punitive damages are only available for tort claims, not breach of contract claims, and that the PRSA must be interpreted as a breach of contract claim. The court agreed with Sunoco, referencing an Oklahoma statute that states, in an action for breach of an obligation not arising from a contract, the jury may award punitive damages. Because breach of the PRSA is interpreted as a breach of contract under Oklahoma law, the plaintiffs could not be awarded punitive damages. Overall, the court struck down the $75 million punitive damage award, but upheld the $103 million award in actual damages. So why does this matter? Oklahoma's royalty payment statute, the PRSA, is much stricter than those in other oil and gas producing states. With mid-con drilling heating up again, first-time Oklahoma operators need to be aware of the potential for the accumulation of huge amounts of compound interest, even when there is a title defect, and work diligently to get those defects cured and payments out on time. That's all for today. I'd like to thank Frances Warden, a law clerk in our Denver office, for her help on this update.